welcome to Michigan Football at the Voice of College Football. I am one of your post-game hosts and weekly contributors, Desmond. I am here with Mark Rogers, the Voice of College Football, and my partner Dre will be joining us shortly. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Share the video out to social media. It helps grow the channel. And while you're at it, also subscribe to Mark's main channel, The Voice of College Football, right here on YouTube. And also join his Discord where you can talk not only college football 24/7, but also NFL football as well. Mark, how we doing today?
Doing well. Catching my breath after the college football season in the books, at least the regular season. Now we keep going, and I don't even know if catching my breath's the right terminology because the transfer portal is much more difficult to keep track of than games. So we have that to deal with.
Yeah, the transfer portal is I had a feeling it was going to be busy and a lot of players entering the portal. What we've seen is something I wasn't even expecting. I mean, this is wild with the amount of players that are in the portal. I think on day one, which was Monday, I think 1,000 players entered the transfer portal, something like that, around 1,000 players, which is just wild to me. The thing that I always go to and look at is the guys who are just kind of jumping in the portal and the possibility of not landing anywhere. And I think sometimes with some of the players that for whatever reason, feel like they're being slighted or whatever, things just not kind of working out their way, of just that potential of, there's a chance I can leave my current school, leave my scholarship, go into the transfer portal and end up not having a scholarship and not having a school, a place to go. Because I think sometimes it's looked at as just true free agency that, oh, well, every team has, 85 scholarship players. So if two of your guys go in the portal, then you'll just you'll just gradually take two other guys and everyone who enters will come out with a spot. And that is not how it works at all. So and not that I think we're talking to any, guys that are in the transfer portal, but it is just, it's interesting. I think that's part of it that I'm not sure all of the players who enter really think about and realize that there's a possibility, and I would say a rather strong possibility, that you aren't going to have a scholarship, at least at a Power 5 program.
Yeah, and maybe this is going to be something similar to early departures for the NFL, where that was something that a lot of players took advantage of and still do, but at least they're now educated with the NFL giving them a grade and giving them a scouting report from personnel directors to let them know where they stand. Whereas opposed to when it first happened, there was all sorts of players that would go into the NFL draft expecting one thing, and then that didn't turn out and they didn't find a place. Now there's obviously always camp invites sent out to free agents for the NFL, but the reason that the NFL cooperated with college football on providing draft grades was, of course, college football is going to be partially selfish about, we want to retain as many players as possible, and so if more of them are educated on what lies ahead or what the probabilities are of them being signed to the NFL, then less are going to enter early, but it's also protecting the player. And, we have yet to get to a place with this where there have been numbers compiled that I know of, but I'm sure at some point in the next couple of years that somebody's going to go back and try to track players and where they landed and how that turned out for them, and some information will start to come out, and just people's own personal stories will start to be told about what happened to them.
Yeah, and I think once some true numbers and true data is compiled, that maybe that starts to I don't want to say discourage players, but just look at the reality of the situation. Like it, because to me, there are plenty of situations, excuse me, where whatever the case may be, right? Maybe I'm a sophomore and getting ready to go into my junior year, and it looks like I'm getting ready to be the star receiver on the team, and then we get a star wide receiver, a true freshman comes in, or even the grad transfer, or a guy comes in through the transfer portal where, man, it kind of looks like I'm not going to get that situation, or maybe my coach gets fired, or coach takes another job where it's just there are plenty of situations where it makes a lot of sense for a guy to transfer, but a incoming freshman who just thought I should have played more. And I didn't hit the weight room the way I was supposed to. I didn't go to class as often as I should have. I was late for meetings, like the types of things that drive coaches crazy, and an easy way to get on the bench, right? For that kid to just get in the portal because I'd like to go somewhere else and play. Well, it really doesn't matter where you go. If you do those types of things, you're not gonna really play anywhere. So it's just I just hope guys look at the totality of the situation, because at the end of the day, no matter if you're a star athlete or not, getting a free education or education for your athletic talents, that's awesome. And to walk away from that to have to go pay for school to essentially do the same thing, not so awesome. So that's just the thing I think about, and probably because I'm 36 years old, so I look at things a little bit different of having to experience potentially double the life of an 18-year-old kid. So maybe it's just a little off, but that's what I think about a lot, is just, oh man, if they can get some true data, maybe that'll encourage a kid to look at the totality of the situation, so he's not making a snap judgment of, oh man, I don't like the coach, or he doesn't like me and I'm out of here.
With any transition in life, there are risks and possible rewards, and upside and downside, and you have to go in with as much education as possible to try to figure out if that's the best decision for you. And even if switching a job, let's say, there's an amount of risk there, but the obvious protection there is that you're accepting a job and you know how much money you're going to be making, unlike this where you're just kind of going out into the free agent market not knowing where you're going to land. So yeah, it's much different, Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see. I was yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'll be interested to get Dre's take on it when he hops in. But to kind of piggyback on the same thing with the transfer portal, obviously we've heard Cade McNamara is transferring from Michigan, headed to Iowa. I don't know if Eric All has committed to Iowa. I feel like I thought he did, but I'm not quite sure. But it also looks like he's kind of there was it might have been a Hillsdale wide receiver, but a pretty good player in the portal mentioned that he was going to visit Iowa. And he cited essentially Cade McNamara kind of transferring and going there. So it'll be interesting to see. I sent a text to Dre, and he's joining us now. I'm just like, man, could Cade be trying to create a super team in Iowa? He's got Eric All coming, and I thought I retweeted something with I want to say it was John, but I'm not 100% sure. But he had mentioned just other guys on the Michigan roster who, for whatever reason, kind of seemed to be a little bit lower on the depth chart. It'll be interesting. I'm not quite sure, but interested in your take on that, Mark, with Cade heading to Iowa.
Did you put Iowa and super team in the same sentence? Or was that Iowa and
well, in a way, in I should clarify, in a way that maybe he starts to get some pretty good offensive players on that team to kind of join him, where and maybe super team's a little strong, but kind of that
super team. A four-man super team.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think Cade McNamara is a great fit for Iowa. Absolutely. that was one of the first teams I thought of, and I'm not saying that I predicted it, nor did I come up with the best fit for him. I think a lot of people just put together, okay, big program, struggles offensively, bad quarterback play. Quarterback's actually leaving. Even if he was staying, Cade McNamara is going to beat him out. And Cade McNamara, coming from Michigan, uh, if nothing else, has shown to be a leader, to be a game manager, to be a guy that's going to make the right decisions on the field and be a strong leader on the field and off the field. And it seems like a great fit for Iowa. I think Iowa's upgraded their quarterback position significantly, but they're going to have to block and catch for him. He's not Michael Vick or Vince Young. He's needs support. Everybody needs support, but he needs, game manager kind of support. But he will make the right decisions and do the right things and be a leader and be a plug and play guy that it's like, okay, he's already developed, he already knows the game, he's already won big games. He's not going to be thrown by anything. He's going to, be a significant upgrade at the position.
Absolutely. Dre, what are your thoughts with Cade heading to Iowa and potentially Eric All heading there as well?
Well, it's a definitely a good find for the Hawkeyes. They get an experienced quarterback, a quarterback that's played in the college football playoff, a quarterback that's one of the Big Ten, the quarterbacks that played them and beat them directly. So they know exactly what he can do. Um, and typically they're always in the mix in the west side of the Big Ten, and this is probably their best, most all around quarterback in maybe what 4 or 5 years at least. Um, so he gives them a shot. Now, what they do with him in terms of offensive calls and philosophy, that's a whole nother thing. They still have to fix that, and who knows, Ferentz is going to do what he needs to do on that side. But in terms of the signal caller, they have the right guy there to do typically what they like to do at Iowa. So it's a really good find by them. In terms of Eric All, look, a year ago this time, we all thought, Eric All was known to be probably a tight end on the rise and looking at an NFL future, definitely the number one tight end for Michigan. And oh, what a difference a year makes. Unfortunately, he gets hurt. And you have the rise of Schoolmaker, and then now Colton Loveland, in which he probably is looking at being the second or third option at least going into next year if he stayed at Michigan. So, um, look, I don't know the inside story as to why he's leaving. It looks like he didn't have the best exit based on some of the things him and his father has said on the Twitter. But in terms of a player, he's a good football player. He has good size, the tight end position. He can run block. He can catch the football, as we saw uh, during his time as a Wolverine. So it's another good. If he does go there, it'll be another good find for him. And he has chemistry with your look to be starting quarterback in Cade McNamara. So look, that'll be two really good gets for the Iowa Hawkeye program. Does it catapult them to being the favorite of Big Ten West? I don't think so. Like I said, I think it's more of a philosophy issue more than anything there. But two losses at this team for Michigan, and definitely two significant additions for Iowa.
Okay. Who would you say would be the West favorite? Purdue still?
No, no, I mean, but they don't have their head. They're losing their head coach. Jeff Braun's going to Louisville, so you can pretty much count Purdue probably going bye bye if I had to take a strong guess. I think even though he's taking some shots at Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan program, I think he's still salty about his loss a few weeks ago. But look, Brett Bielema's done a pretty good job at Illinois, so I think they're gonna have a pretty good shot next year. Uh, Wisconsin has the infrastructure uh, uh, and name brand, at least from Big Ten standards, to have a pretty good turnaround under Luke Fickle. So I won't count them out. Um, I know Northwest has been a total disaster, but if you look at their history, next year will be a year that they should be good. I think the last
No,
4
they've
years
messed
that
that
they'll be
up.
They
They
messed it
did.
up already.
They've messed up that every other.
Oh, they did
Yeah.
mess it up. Okay, okay. I thought
Yeah,
this was supposed to
they've
be the
been
down
horrible for
year.
2 years now.
Okay, okay, okay.
They're
So,
1-17 in their last 18 games.
okay, okay, okay.
That's
I
Huge.
see.
rough.
Now, I remember the up down trend. So they're still down. Okay, but either way, and then you have Iowa. So I mean, I think it's maybe and in Minnesota as well. So I think you have maybe a 3 to 4 blah type of race again next year, and it's hard to say who is a favorite, man. But no one really sticks out as of now, to be honest. As
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Sports Talk 101 says Eric All to Iowa. I think he will follow Cade. And One Scoop John says he's taking an official visit tomorrow. Wonder if Josh Gaddis follows soon. Now,
I'm
I
not worried about
know.
Josh Gaddis.
Well, here's the thing. Now, I was going to say that. I know that our Michigan fans feel a certain way about Josh Gaddis, and as they should.
But
But I would say anybody is an upgrade over Brian Ferentz as far as an offensive play caller.
but you know
Dre,
what?
I think if we put you at OC, you would be an upgrade for Brian Ferentz. No, well, yeah, I guess there is
Well,
disrespect. I can't say
that
no disrespect. That's disrespectful. I just don't.
you
I think
did.
he's terrible.
You just threw major shade toward. You still threw shade towards me, even though you tried to use me as an example. But I appreciate that.
No, I think
Uh,
you would do a better job than Brian Ferentz. That's what
well,
I'm. That's what I'm
well, thank,
saying.
well, thank you, buddy. But no, overall, look, they can have whoever they want at OC, but we all know, because we see here in Michigan, that if the head coach has to sign off on the game plan and the type of philosophy you have, unless you have carte blanche to do whatever you want, which most OCs don't, then it's not really going to matter. Unless I see a different type of philosophy with Iowa, then I believe it when I see it. But you know what? It doesn't really have to be a changing of the guard. I mean, not changing of the guard, but a changing of the wheel, so to speak. They don't have to do anything, earth shatteringly different. You know, I think they need to just look. They have a pretty good quarterback. Just have Cade do what he did in Michigan. Control the TOP. They tend to have a really good defense, or at least a good defense every year, and make timely throws. And in the Big Ten West, that's good enough to have you win that division. It really is. So I definitely respect them. I think they're not someone to sleep on. When I put Iowa in the Big Ten needs to say, oh my gosh, I think they're ready to compete with the big boys in the East. No. And would I be? I think Iowa does play Michigan in the crossover game again. I have to double check next fall. But it's not going to be like a game that I'm circling like, oh my gosh, we need to be worried about the Cade McNamara revenge game. I don't say that as slight towards Cade, but I don't think that just catapults them to being some kind of serious Big Ten winner contender.
No Iowa on the regular season schedule.
Okay, so it'll have to be in the conference game
But
then.
you're very concerned about Iowa every other year. So why would next year be no different?
You said I'm normally concerned. Well, in terms of this being some kind of serious contending type of team. I respect Iowa. I don't if my tonality is coming off as I don't respect them, then that's not the right portrayal. I respect them. I think they are a formidable opponent, especially when we tend to play them, which is earlier in the year. They tend to be one of our first tests that we get kind of a gauge on how good Michigan is or isn't. So from that standpoint, that hasn't changed. And you can maybe can argue that if they did play them during the regular season next year, that they would absolutely should be better and be a stronger test for Michigan. Look, Kay McNamara knows his offense, right? So you mean to tell me that he's not going to be, brought into some of those defensive meetings, or he's not going to be briefed on, Michigan likes to do and not do. I think that would definitely play a role. So, no, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them. I think they are a formidable opponent, but they're not someone that I worry about in terms of being like a serious contender if we met them in the Big Ten title game, in terms of upsetting the East.
This is my first look at the Michigan 2023 schedule, and I got to say that I don't know that I can get started on the bashing soon enough. As soon as you've got 15 minutes to produce a video,
It's not good.
East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green.
Mm-hmm.
Look, man. Hey, look, guys.
We talked about this kind of before this. Once we got going, I'm like, next year's the same thing. I mean,
it's not.
if you win, it doesn't. If you win, it doesn't matter. Like now, you know what I mean. At this point, that because the out of conference wasn't great this year, but it's like, hey, you're undefeated, all good.
You guys are right. They're Michigan. They'll win the Big Ten title and go to the playoff. Why should they schedule anyone? If they schedule somebody good, then they might lose a game non-conference, and that might knock them out of the playoff. So why do it? That's why these schools should
apparently not
be scheduling themselves.
Well, apparently not.
I mean, taken out of their hands.
Yeah, well, Ohio State, still got in and they didn't win the Big Ten, so I guess it doesn't matter if you just automatically win a conference. Just saying. I mean, look, guys, there's nothing I can do about
there's a conclusion you can basically draw from winning a conference and your probability of going to the playoffs.
Absolutely. I'm not saying it's not. Look, but there's nothing I could do about the schedule, and that would be something that will be talked about absolutely throughout the upcoming year, because I'll be lying. I think other fans will be lying too if you are say that you're entertained by those. As Antoine likes to say, cupcake games earlier in the year. They're not entertaining. They're not, I find them very boring. I mean, pretty much by halftime, I'm like, I don't want to watch the rest of this. And that's me being a fan of the team. So it's like, it's kind of a catch-22, I guess, because, you don't want to be in a situation where, you schedule and you lose and it, maybe derails your season because it puts you in a situation where you can't drop another one. But at the same time, from a fan standpoint, from a entertainment value standpoint, no, it's not very fun with that kind of schedule. Especially like imagine if Michigan goes all the way and wins the national title. I'm sure the rest of the country would love to see the defending national champs play on the big stage earlier in the year. I mean, think about Georgia. They won a championship last year. And, they started off with it looked to be pretty good test to start the year at Oregon. Now they rolled Oregon, but, that was a national title, defending national champions starting off their first game of the year on national TV playing against a top 10 ranked team. I'm pretty sure they got a lot of eyes, at least in the first quarter. So, there's definitely an entertainment value that is lost with that kind of schedule.
Yeah, like I said, it just kind of is what it is. I think, my hope is once you get to, once we expand the playoff, is that these coaches and programs stop playing it so safe with the out of conference. Because I mean, what essentially, like you said, what benefit do I get? Let's say is Michigan. Let's say for Michigan, what benefit would I get if I have the ability to schedule, let's just say Clemson, right? To schedule Clemson, right? First game of the year. What benefit do I get if I lose? Because from there, I have to go 11 straight. I have to win out. If I don't, I'm out. I'm done.
In this current platform, in this current format, 14 playoff, yeah, and that would be that could be. It can also go the opposite. Well, that could be a benefit of the playoff format expanding because maybe schools won't be as scared to have a potential loss.
Yeah. Because my schedule, I would assume strength of schedule comes into play, but nonetheless,
for sure.
Right? It for that Michigan Clemson game, you actually do get a benefit because even if you lose, I had a great strength of schedule, and I only dropped one game in the Big Ten, which at that point you'd probably be playing for the conference. But let's say you don't, it's like, well, listen, man, like I had one of the toughest games scheduled like that, out of conference. I think it would benefit, and I don't know, we'll see. I'm hoping that is one of the byproducts of expanding the playoffs. So One Scoop John, thank you for the super chat. Definitely appreciate it. Said Cade versus JJ in the 2023 Big Ten Championship. I mean, honestly, if I had to guess who is going to represent the West next year, I am actually going to say Iowa. I think now part of it is their offensive coordinator, which I'm not sure that's going to change. But if it's someone different, I would pen them in. I would use pen to write Iowa in as the Big Ten West representative, because I think with how they play defense and special teams, they're just always solid. Like they're rarely, it's rarely that Iowa rolls out a defense that's just awful. I mean, they may be limited as far as athleticism, things of that nature, but they're not going to be out of position often. So yeah, that would be my thought, but we'll see with old Brian Ferentz.
I could be way off, but I just have a feeling that Luke Fickell in Wisconsin is going to pretty much hit the ground running in terms of like being very very competitive. I could see them having 8 to 9 wins next year.
That's possible.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to. He's able to a big guy. I was hoping that Michigan was able to swing this guy in a transfer portal, but I think it was a big time win to keep Braylon Allen on campus. So he has one of the best running backs in the country coming back, and now Graham Mertz did hit the transfer portal. That's the guy who significantly underperformed. He did.
Wow.
So that was
Braylon Allen is out of there. He is out of there.
No. He's already he's said on his Twitter he's returning. So
really,
yeah,
that's surprising. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know who the Wisconsin quarterback's going to be. Of course, this is transfer portal season. Maybe, maybe it's DJ.
Maybe it's JT Daniels.
Oh wow, his 5th stop in his college career. Just saying, hey dude, hey kid. I guess as much eligibility you have, use it up. But my gosh, at some point, maybe it's you. I'm just saying, like,
Well, it's not that he's never been the starter, right? So like he started at USC, got hurt.
But you keep losing your job for a variety of reasons. For whatever reason,
he keeps losing his job because of injury. That's literally the only reason he's lost his starting job.
If he was good enough, they'll let him play again. Once he's like, obviously he's not good enough to.
You know how that goes. If a team is especially with Georgia, like the team is rolling. So why are we gonna pull Stetson Bennett out when we're playing well? He's not playing poorly. I mean, I can understand why he didn't get it back. So, I mean,
the point is that I would have highly, and Fickle's a really good recruiter, so I would anticipate that he finds a way to get a really good roster, even initially in year one. We know how weak the West can be, and I think Wisconsin's absolutely going to be a player. I'd be shocked if they have an off season. I think they'll hit the ground running, relatively speaking, next year. So I think they'll be solid. Yeah.
You ain't gonna win much without a quarterback. I know that much.
Oh, look, hey, you preach to the choir. I totally understand, but that's the beauty, and I think that's how we have to like change our mindsets as how we view first year head coaches. Is that now because of the transfer portal and immediate eligibility to play, it doesn't always take guys 2 or 3 years to kind of get their players on campus to start to see tangible results. If they get the right guys in to follow them, they can have immediate results. I mean, look, that's probably why part of it, how the Pac-12 looks, and I don't be surprised if Colorado goes from winning one game this year to maybe 6 next year with Deion. I could see that 6 or 7 with Deion next year. We don't have enough time. This is not the right forum to go into that incredible press conference he had. And the videos, I have a ton of comments on that. Probably not the best thing to, anoint your son to start quarterback, your first day on campus. But just saying. And to tell a whole room of kids that you might as well leave now because they're bringing Louis Vuitton players. I don't know, whatever. But the overall point is that.
What did you say Colorado's record was this year?
I think they won 1 game, right?
You're correct in that. How many did they lose?
What's 11? Played 12 games, right? So, Yeah, look, man,
Mhm.
I get it. I mean, you're
They
111
were
rushing.
atrocious.
Yeah,
All
I
of the,
understand.
they should be fortunate that they aren't just cut and
You're right.
sent home. You're 1-11.
Yeah,
What are we talking about? Yes,
what you go?
a
What you?
1-11 starting quarterback. Yes, you can go home. You can go wherever you want. Go in the transfer portal. Go wherever you want. Yes.
See what? So what you think Deion should do it like straight cut day NFL style, like on Hard Knocks?
But
Just bring
see,
every kid
here
in and say, "Yeah,
I think
it
the only difference is if you remember when Jim Harbaugh got here on campus, when
was
he
some
got
roster
hired
turnover.
in, there
That's
was a
right.
lot of guys that
There
were
was some roster
encouraged to
turnover.
leave. The only
Yes,
difference is this was being filmed. That's the
right.
only difference.
And it was totally transparent. He was just
Correct.
like,
It's just like,
"Yeah,
look, this is life, man. Like that's how it works. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like so.
yeah."
I look at it, Jim Harbaugh did the same thing. Lincoln Riley did the same. He just made a move. Like everybody, you hear it so much when you hear about just a new coach taking on a gig or whatever the case may be. People talk about it a lot. Like, well, how long does it take to get your guys in there? Like now, I've heard another coach say, well, as soon as you take the job, they're all your guys. But nonetheless, you hear that term a lot. Like, well, how long does it take to get your guys in there? Well, I can get my guys in here a lot quicker if I get some of these
Not
other
giving
guys
year
out.
one, dude. You can do it. And what's interesting now with the portal is that now it's like your guy could be a guy who, let's say, either he was at your previous stop, or he could have been a kid that you recruited heavily in high school, and you had that relationship with. So what either way, what he can do. You're like, okay, hey, I'm here now. You're leaving. Let's go. So no, and that's the thing too, man. Like Fickles, Deion Sanders, pretty much any guy who's taking over a new job. But you saw with Chip Kelly. Now, granted, LSU is geographically is already,
Brian Kelly.
yeah, thank you, Brian Kelly. I'm sorry. He was able to have a decent amount of success year one.
Yeah,
Part of it due
great
to,
success. Heck,
yeah,
I'll
real good
give him
success.
great success for that.
I know it's just yeah, but
Whew.
great success.
I just took a
Last,
look at the Colorado schedule. Whew. Because someone had put, so Shadyville put they'll win more than that, at least 9 games. Check this schedule out. Holy cow! So they got first game at TCU. Now then they got Nebraska, Colorado State, which I think they'll be fine at Arizona State, Arizona. But later on they've got USC, they got Oregon. So they got USC at Oregon, at UCLA, at Utah. They
ugh.
got they. That's gonna be a tough schedule. We'll see what happens, but yeah,
Well,
no,
hey,
he needs dogs in there day one.
oh, he does, but he will, and this is why I think it's going to be really interesting about him. He will. Like he's going to have some juice where, um, he's going to get some players to follow him immediately. Now,
Yes,
and I completely agree with GOJ here, but I was going to say that I think they win about 6 games, and I think going from 1 win to 6 wins
that's amazing.
At
That's
Colorado,
amazing.
get to a bowl game, that would be incredible success.
Amazing.
So,
Did
uh,
you see? So, as an Alabama fan, Trey Sanders was one of our running backs. He's in the transfer portal. He actually tweeted to Deion Sanders on Twitter, just like, "Hey, you got room for me?" And I don't. I think Trey Sanders is the first one to tweet it, but I think there's going to be plenty of guys that have that same sentiment that are going to go call into Colorado. Like, I want to be a part of this. Yes, let's do it. So yeah, it'll be interesting. The transfer portal, like I said, Lincoln Riley and what he did at USC. I mean, they were a pretty rough team last year, and in one season, they are in the Pac-12 championship, and you could make an argument that if Caleb Williams doesn't hurt his hamstring, potentially they win the Pac-12 and are in the playoff.
I
So the
told you.
formula, is there where you can turn over a roster, at least a good chunk of it, in just one offseason. You know what I mean? So you just never know, man. But yeah, I think Dion will be just fine, just fine.
Yeah, and that's one of the things for Michigan, and they actually picked up a left or a guard from, was it Arizona State? Who was the guy they
Uh,
picked up in the transfer portal? I think
yeah.
it's Arizona State. And look, I know it's asking for a ton to try to say, hey, can we get another All American offensive lineman and transfer portal back to back? I've already tempered my expectations that that's probably very, very unlikely. But look, um, next year's team should be really good. I mean, uh, I think that initially, I would say Michigan is the favorite to. If I haven't looked at the Vegas odds, but I would guess Michigan's probably the favorite to win the Big Ten next year, as of now. Um, because I mean, the next closest has to be Ohio State, but with Ohio State, you got to wonder about their quarterback situation. What's the fall off the quarterback situation, and how's that look going into next year? MSU, we know what they are. Penn State, they're up and down, and then how inconsistent or not of a factor it is for when the Big Ten or West is. So, um, no, Michigan's in a really good situation, and I wish they would, take advantage of the portal more. I would love to get like more of an another impact player, maybe on the defensive side of the ball through the portal. They have a lot of momentum right now in terms of how they're winning and playing on a national stage, and I think that should benefit them both recruiting and portal wise. So let's see if Harbaugh is able to, find ways to bring more talent. And then also, Des, what I wonder is that maybe we have a little bit more momentum in terms of acquiring players because look, Jimmy's doesn't seem to be. He's going to be playing games this year in terms of trying to field jobs, right?
Hmm.
What was it earlier this week? He pretty much shut down any kind of exploration of jobs this off season. He was asked if he's going to look to NFL, and he said he's enthusiastic. I think the wording was, "I'm enthusiastically will be coaching for Michigan in 2023." So that's his way of. Of course, it's odd again to say it, but that's Jimmy's way of saying that no, I will be here next year. So hopefully that helps them, not have any kind of questioning, and guys are able to be a little bit more comfortable coming here if that was a hold up last off season.
I want to commend Jim Harbaugh with his comments because this easily could have been a simmering that turned into a firestorm with the job offers, NFL, all that jazz again. And you know me because I was pretty ticked off with Michigan with the way that the historic season he had last year, and then him doing that crap with the Minnesota Vikings. And just not squashing stuff. I was ticked off. But when it started coming up this time, and I think this was Sunday, Trevor Woods on Twitter put Jim Harbaugh just squashed the NFL noise. Said people who are pleased. I'm sorry. Said people who are pleased with the job they've done will be happy to learn. Will be back enthusiastically coaching the Wolverines in 2023. And that's all you have to do. That's all you have to do
No
is just
BS.
squash it, right? Don't. And he didn't let it simmer. He didn't let it keep going. It hurt his name. Hey, we'll be here next year. Nowhere,
We
and
even said
that's all you need to do. So I do commend him because he's not done that in the past, and he's also keeping his word. He said that when he committed and didn't get the Minnesota Vikings job. He said that this is not going to be an annual thing. So I will give him credit for that.
two things. Two things. One, it's funny. Like that job looks a lot better now. I remember last year this time. I'm like, wow, the Vikings job, is that really a great job? That job looks fantastic right now. Kevin O'Connell's done a pretty good job there. Very good job there. And number two, I'll say this. I think in years past, the way Jimmy would have answered that question is, right now we're handling the task at hand. Anything else will have its time. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yeah. Something where you're just like,
He
wait,
doesn't
that
answer
wasn't
the
a
question.
no. Like,
No, like yeah, it's like this. Like okay, that wasn't a no, Jimmy, but okay. So no, I agree with you. That was about a straightforward answer.
that was great.
That he's willing to give. Now, and we'll take that as word and move forward. Now if that's just a commitment for next year, maybe, then that is what it is. And look, you, no matter how good a coach's tenure or bad a coach's tenure is or whatever, nothing lasts forever. There's a good chance, especially if he continues to win the way he's won, that he will get that maybe too good to pass up NFL opportunity. And
But see, the tough part with that is that essentially just doesn't happen. Think about the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL, whoever you think they are.
right,
Their coaches aren't being fired. You know what I mean? Like if you have
typically
one of
no.
those guys,
Right,
like it's
right,
not
right,
happening.
right, right. Typically no. No, I think it has to be one of those situations where kind of like, and people may view Russell Wilson as cooked, and he very well could be. I think it has to be one of those situations like the Broncos this year, where it's like a team that has a pretty good roster on paper, a veteran quarterback that is good at the very least, and they are severely underperforming. That they think a head coach is the missing link. But granted, like you said, Des, it's rare. I mean, look at the Raiders as well. Another veteran quarterback, but they have a disaster of a season. So, those situations don't happen every year, but I think it'll be something like that intrigues him, like the Vikings last year. So, but I'm with you. That's a whole nother conversation. But do I think he's truly scratched that itch of going back to NFL? Of course not. And I'll never say that he's done pursuing that. But as of now, look, we know that he'll be back for next year, and we'll take that at his word.
Yeah, I mean that's all you can do. I mean,
Yeah,
he's not gonna. You can't ask him to commit for 5 years down the road. But listen, he squashed it this year, so I'm gonna give him credit as one of his toughest critics. So I'll give him credit for that. He squashed it early, didn't let this simmer. No, nothing around any recruiting days. And think about this too. Also, I mean, that was Sunday that happened. The transfer portal opened on Monday. So literally, you know what I mean? Like, so that is a just a potential opportunity for a guy who does get in the portal and say whatever Michigan does want to go after him. Well, if I'm Ohio State or if I'm Clemson, right, I could talk about the uncertainty. Like, look, man, this guy, look what he did last offseason. And and there's conversations now still on him going to the NFL. So I think him squashing that was terrific. So I'm
Oh,
definitely going to give him.
and much needed, and much needed, because you need to, for once, especially following a successful season, you just need to go into an off season and to be relatively quiet. Just a normal off season where it's not any mess really. It's continuity, and it's all business.
Yep, and there's something to be said about that too. This is a great question. Kumo T, thank you so much for the super chat. Says hypothetical national championship question: what game plan could Michigan implement to stop Georgia's tight ends? I want the revenge game, but that looks like a serious problem. Good job and go blue. Thanks so much, Kumo T. And Dre, I will toss this to you to start.
Pray is number one.
Man, listen, it's
uh,
just.
that,
Oh,
that
go ahead.
that's part of it. Now, look, hope is not a strategy. Neither is probably prayer. Um,
I mean, you can do those things, but
you can do it.
let's talk X's
Uh,
and O's.
we're talking X and O's. But look, you know what? That's a tough question to have a really good answer for. Is because unfortunately, I think big athletic tight ends is a reason why they are a well sought out um, weapon on the next level. They're really, really tough to game plan for and to defend because they are the ultimate mismatch. They're they're too big for defensive backs to check. They're typically too fast for most linebackers, most not all, most linebackers to check. And it just creates an incredible mismatch. And now you're talking about two. I think Michigan, there's no game plan that could solely take away the Titans' effectiveness individually. But I think the main thing Michigan could do is prevent explosive plays down the field. Um, Try to keep Georgia behind schedule as much as possible. And you also have to have some kind of spy for Stetson Bennett because he likes to use his legs, especially this year. um, and be very sound with your tackling. This Georgia offense presents a multitude of uh, mismatches, and there's no one on a Michigan roster that is able to you can put an assignment on a Brock Bowers, for example, and say, yeah, Brock Bowers, for example, and say, look, this is your guy. There's no one on our roster, or let alone no one in the country that that can handle that assignment by themselves. So I think the main thing is, yeah, being very sound with your tackling, not beating yourselves, and just making them work for any points that they get because they will put up points. Now, one thing I would take solace in is that regardless of what happens in the first half, Jesse Minter has been a wizard with his second half adjustments. So whatever Georgia does come out with in the first half, Jesse Minter will probably find some kind of I won't say shutdown deterrent, but some kind of deterrent in the in terms of huge effectiveness in the second half of that game. So unfortunately, it's just that's just a very tough position to game plan for. If it's a great running back, you can load the box. If it's a great receiver, you can shade defensive coverage their way. It's the reason why tight ends are hard to cover. It's because, and also due to where they lined up on the field. It's very very tough to game plan for.
Can you respond to this comment? GOJ says Bowers is a positionless player. His route ability is average. He runs 2 routes. The key is no free releases from the line. Make him win the routes.
Um, Positionless, I agree with that. I mean, he's unique. I think he falls in line. I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked if he doesn't become the next X type weapon in the NFL, similar to Travis Kelsey and George Kittle or something like that. Andrews,
Yep, Mark
on the next
Andrews.
Mark Andrews on the next level, because he's one of the guys where he's not just a threat just to catch the ball. He's a threat to catch the ball and then make plays afterwards. So, yeah, sure. Could his route running probably use some refinement? Of course. I think you can make that argument. You can probably make the argument for any tight end because route running typically is their number one strength. But he's big, he's strong, he's fast, and he's a danger to take it to the house every time he touches the football. So I agree. You do want to make him run his routes, but at the end of the day, you just want to limit his damage overall. You want to, and this is something. It's going to be hard with this two tight end set that they're running out there, but especially in the goal line situations, we do know that Jesse Minter likes to double the number one. He shows tendencies to try either shade or double the team's perceived number one option closer to the red zone. That's gonna be tougher to do versus Georgia, obviously, but that's probably what he's going to have to do. In key conversions, especially in the red zone. Just make sure that anybody else beats you but that guy. And being in Bowers.
The two things I'll disagree with is the route ability it's above average. Like I trust me, I've seen Brock Bowers carving up my team, and that he runs 2 routes. He also false. I think the biggest thing with Brock Bowers is I don't think he is the fastest tight end. I think there's going to be plenty of tight ends that test faster than him, but he's just so smart in his awareness of where he is on the field,
Yes, with
where
the
the
game
defenders
speed, though,
are.
Dad. Yes, with a good game speed does.
Yeah, but I would, but that's not why he wins though.
Right.
That's the key. It's because he just has an awareness. Like he reads coverage really well. He finds a hole in in the defenses. He does a terrific job. Yeah, he's unreal. Like most tight ends, I'm like, he can be a potentially second round, third round. Like Brock Bowers is going to make a team use a top 5 pick on him, and I think he's going to be worth it. Absolutely worth it. He's terrific, man. He's fantastic. Yeah, he's unreal. He's unreal.
Another one. A super chat from Nick.
Nick, thank you. GOJ says, let's agree to disagree. Good with that. Nick, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, are you guys concerned about Michigan's NIL, and do you think the new president can ease admission requirements to make it easier for undergrad transfers to come in? I hope they fix their NIL. One thing I will say real quick, and then I'll kick it to you, is Joel Klatt is a Colorado alum, and obviously you talked about the Deion hiring, but he said that they just changed their admissions requirements to, and I can't remember if it was, I think it was to essentially be able to take more gen ed courses from other schools to make essentially makes it easier for guys to transfer in. So that is a possibility. That is a power that each school individually has the ability to do. So I wanted to mention that. So it is possible to change that. So I'll kick it to you. Are you concerned with Michigan's NIL?
Not so much with the NIL, but I've always been concerned with their admission requirements. I think it has prevented the ease of transfers coming to Michigan in terms of, you can have, a player with almost a junior level worth of credits, but, due to the type of credits actually transferred over to Michigan, they'll have to start as a freshman, and they came,
That's crazy.
and see that could be, and understandably so, a non-negotiable for some of these guys, no matter how much they may want their opportunity. So, um, that's the biggest concern for me. Do I think the new president could change that? Sure. I mean, look, Schlichel, the previous president, I believe, right? Well, it was from Michigan. He was a big academia guy. He never seemed to be overly concerned with or motivated to work with the athletic department, to change that. Now, Ono, I think it's the last name of the new president. He's brought in quite a bit of energy being a new president. He seems very enthusiastic about athletics. He enjoys the games. He's at every big time game. So could he be a little bit more interested in working with the athletic department, maybe to change some things up? I'll put it this way. I am optimistically intrigued that he can. I don't know that he will, but I think there's a much higher chance that the new president would do as opposed to Schlissel, the previous one.
Yeah, I mean, you essentially you'd love to have as much, essentially ammunition or intrigue for your program as possible. So you'd love to have NIL right lined up. You'd love to have the admissions requirements a little bit easier for guys to get right. So you'd love all of that stuff to happen. I mean, at this point,
academia. What it comes down to, it's the whole, the value. I think the fear or the thought process is the valuing the perception of your academic standards. Look, but it doesn't really matter what you want to say. It's when it comes to Michigan, even though it's an incredible academic university, one of the top in the country, it's not Northwestern, it's not Stanford, it's not a Ivy League school. It's a fantastic education, but it's like this weird middle ground that they try to play, in which they present themselves as having that kind of academic standard, but yet that's not quite what they are as well. And I feel like, well, if you're not going to be a Stanford or Northwestern and have very, very strict academic requirements, then why are we even trying to do that? Let's try to go all in, and let's not have any kind of those major restrictions. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think it's this kind of weird area that they find themselves in.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I can understand why they don't change it, because of the as historic and as great of a reputation that the Michigan football program has. I think the Michigan brand itself, which I think, right, the football program is within that brand, but the Block M, I think probably has a stronger reputation. And if you're gonna hold on to one, which one do you go full force on? I would argue the brand, because because the argument would almost be, look at the current environment of the football team, right? We haven't changed the admission requirements to this day, and right, it's possible. Like, we can be successful. We can, you're building to an elite football program. So those things, it seems like those things can happen without us making, drastic changes. Maybe you do, one or two little tweaks, something like that to help, right? But doesn't hurt the brand too much. But I think there's a balance that you can have. But absolute worst case, I would, if you're the president, I'd look at it and say, well, we can keep the brand strong, and we've got the right guy coaching and building that culture to where it's like, yeah, I mean, yeah, everybody would like it to be easier, but it's just not. So work with what you got. It seems to be working well, so let's just keep on down, the train tracks. Like, the train's going in the right direction. We're all right. We're good.
Yeah, I think Michigan's just one of those rare, it's one of those rare universities where both their athletic and academic department are both equally, I won't say equally, but are both on par with some of the best in the country. Academically, they're one of the most prestigious universities in the country outside of the, universities that are Ivy League, and athletically, I mean, they're one, they have a very competitive athletic department. Football, basketball. Look, the basketball team has been in the Final Four, what, 3 out of the last 10 years, something like that, or 12 years, something crazy like that. Football team, you see what they're doing. The baseball team was just in the College World Series, I think 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I think they have a really good hockey team as well. So, I mean, look, it's a fantastic all-around university. And I just think they have a rare situation where I just don't think, and I'm not a Michigan grad, I went to Central Michigan University, but, I'm not a Michigan grad, but I don't think fire up Chiz, baby. I just don't. I'll be shocked if like a rich Michigan alum or just let's say a someone who is well, look, we know people who are Michigan grads, but so we can ask them. But
True.
it's like let's say if you're a doctor who got your undergrad and medical degree from University of Michigan, do you really care if a kid who's helping Michigan win a national title is not the best student? Do you think it devalues your degree? I don't think it does at all. And I don't think that really matters in terms of the perception of the block camp and regular students, if you will, who go to Michigan. I think they're one of those rare universities where that perception probably isn't there compared to maybe, and I could be totally wrong about this, Alabama. I'm not saying the University of Alabama is not a good university, but I would assume that
they don't get high marks. I'll put it that way.
well, okay. I'm just saying, like, like Alabama has great athletics, right? Especially football. But, for students, people who graduate from University of Alabama, I'm sure that degree isn't as
prestigious
as a University of Michigan degree.
Correct.
Even if their football teams are, as of right now, equally as successful, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah, I guess the counter to what you said is if I'm the doctor that right, you said if one guy is not as great of a student, while I agree with that premise, I think the argument is over time would that devalue, right? So you're talking just one kid. Well, I'm saying at the next 5 years, if it's 200 kids, maybe, I don't know, maybe not. You know what I mean? Who knows? I'm just looking at the other side of it of, I want to make sure that, my degree, my institution it's prestigious. It's difficult to get into. So, I like I said, I think there can be a balance. We'll see what happens at the end of the day.
It's a tough line to, especially in today's, for college football. It's a tough balance to have, especially if you're trying to be extremely competitive consistently over time. So, but hey, we'll see how Michigan continues to toe that line. And as of now, they're getting the best of both worlds, baby.
I'm gonna go back to Let's Toast Media's question real quick. But GOJ, this is just unnecessary. Listen, he put Alabama. I was on campus 10 years ago. Half the football team couldn't read to a Lord forgive me. Is that necessary? Okay. Dude, I don't know who was anybody talking about literacy levels, okay? Nobody was. You just brought that up out of the blue.
God.
That's actually really funny. That's good. Thanks for the comment, GOJ. Oh man. So yes, Let's Toast Media put Dre. quick question. I know Oregon and Washington was in talks to come to the Big Ten. Will GOJ said, I'll delete it. It's fine, man. Leave it. Just leave it. It says, I know Oregon and Washington was in talks to come to the Big Ten. Will Colorado be in the talks, or will they stay and take over the Pac-12 with USC and UCLA coming? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, gosh, his name escapes me, and actually, Dash, you weren't able to do that episode. I think you were on vacation or something. But this past summer, we had someone join, um, the channel, and he did a breakdown of both the academic and athletic impact that any of the Pac-12 teams would have had coming to the Big Ten. And I could tell you just based off memory that Colorado wasn't really high on that list.
Mm-hmm.
Now, athletically, they really don't have much going for them. If I think about like the biggest three sports, football, basketball, and baseball. So you
But think
can't.
about this though. If that is true, potentially, let's say Oregon and Washington move out of the Pac-12, sorry, and then also UCLA and USC are gone, you could make an argument that them and Utah, those would probably be the teams that they'd be in the mix. Let's put it that way. I can't guarantee that they'd be competing for it, but they'd potentially be in the mix.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't see it. I don't see it because the Big Ten has to want you. Colorado can try knocking on the door. Everybody wants a piece of that Big Ten money. Uh,
They do.
that they do, but the Big Ten has to want you. And for them to want you, there has to be there has to be benefit for them. And so what you have to ask yourself is, what's the benefit of bringing Colorado into the conference? I mean, is there some huge geographical advantage? Not really. I mean, you've already got the East Coast with Rutgers. You have all of the Midwest, and then now you're getting a big chunk of the West Coast by bringing in, Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA. So, are you too worried about the Mountain West? Not. I mean, I don't think that's a huge geographical area and a win. That you're looking to necessarily explore. So, I don't see it because I don't see the attraction from a Big Ten standpoint. Why would they want Colorado? No, it sounds cool. Deion Sanders in the Big Ten, but other than that, I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, if I were Colorado, yes, I would love the Big Ten money, but on the flip side, I would also like to win too, and I just don't see, especially in the big sports like you mentioned, the competitive advantage that you'll have outside of just a kid who lives in Colorado or lives close to Colorado.
No.
You'll have the Deion draw now, but he's not going to be there forever. So, how does that work? I guess the question would be, and I'll pose this question to you: would you rather be the Clemson where you're the best in a bad conference, or would you rather be, I don't know, Oklahoma or Texas where you compete in a pretty good conference? You know what I mean? Like, which would you rather have?
Well, to answer that question, I think Clemson's in a rare situation that they're able to benefit. They're able to get away with being very competitive, albeit in a weak conference, because they're in a pretty good geographical location for recruiting. I think if you were in a Clemson type situation, but you were Colorado, if you will, and let's say everyone left, like you said, Pac-12, and it's Colorado and Utah, right? And somehow Colorado is able to dominate the Pac-12. Well, you'll never be in a geographical advantage in terms of acquisition, proximity to the better players in the country. So I'd much rather be more in an Oklahoma, Texas type situation in which you were at that time, at a time, you were, the kings of the Big 12 and you were competing. But even then, you still were in really good geographical locations. So,
but see, I think
tough.
the transfer portal is going to change a lot to
It
where
will. Oh,
I'm
no.
not sure that'll matter as much as far as just geographical. But keep this in mind too when you're talking about, goodness gracious, potentially winning a bad conference. Well, you're going to guarantee a spot in the college football playoff. It's starting in 2 years.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's something that you start to look at as well, where, if I can guarantee a spot, then Yeah, that would be golden. So I think I'd rather be the best in a bad conference, honestly, than to compete. Because like I said, especially coming up with the expansion, you're looking at potentially not getting in and losing, 2-3 games. I don't know. Would you rather have that or lose one game in conference and you win the conference championship just about every year and you're in? So,
No, I'm with you. I think it's and especially with the expansion, Des. I think it's one of those things where look, you just want to get into the playoff ball, by any means necessary. Because if you're not in the playoff, any kind of postseason bowl is really, especially with the expansion, is significantly devalued, right? And so you just want to be a part of that. You want to get a piece of that pie. You want to be a part of that invitational, when it expands to 12 teams.
is this
So.
correct? One scoop. So One Scoop John says, speaking of Tony, don't miss tonight's Pac-12 show at 10:30 Eastern, which will include Colorado beat writer at Buff Zone Brian Howell. Oh, okay. I thought he said they're gonna talk to Coach Prime. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, we got Deion Sanders on the Pac-12, but he says they're gonna talk Coach Prime and the positive response he's got so far. Okay, sorry about that. Thanks, One Scoop. But yes, tune in 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to chat. Okay, Nick, thank you for the super chat. Says this game of chicken between the Big Ten and Notre Dame is stupid. We all know Notre Dame wants that 80+ million a year. They're gonna come soon.
You would think, but I really think they find, I don't think, I know they find enjoyment out of being
Independent.
independent.
Yeah.
So and they, so
But
I
see,
don't
how's
know.
that gonna work now with the playoff expansion though? Because
But
to
now they
me
don't
they're
have
gonna,
to. They don't have
yeah.
now. They don't really have to, go to a conference because, they, from a scheduling standpoint, they should be able to be in the mix enough, to not have to win a conference, not to need a conference win, even more so now, as long as they're in the mix and they have a pretty good, decent strength of schedule, they should be in a college football playoff every year. So, and I know it's more than just getting to the playoff. It's also, like you said, Nick, the money and the payoff that comes with being with the Big Ten. But I just think they're, like I said, that stubbornness is going to leave anytime soon. Or subside.
I think they're gonna start getting the shaft a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, because you look at a team potentially. Heck, let me take a look at these football rankings real quick. Who's a team? You look at a team like LSU. Granted, I know they lost and whatever, and they're 17, not 12. But if you're looking at, right, let's say LSU and Notre Dame are both on the cusp of getting that 12 spot. I think for a team that got into the college football, or not got into their conference championship game and lost, I think still would get the nod over Notre Dame, just because number one, it's another data point, and they won their division or were one of the two best teams in a Power Five conference. Whereas Notre Dame, I don't know, man. I think they're almost gonna have to force them to get into a conference. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's possible, man. But at the end of the day, we all know this: the Big Ten goes through Ann Arbor now. So, and it will be that way until someone changes it. And uh, I'm gonna keep singing that tune because Michigan has earned that. They have earned that. Um, they, at the last 2 years, appear to be the kings of the Big Ten, and we'll see. We'll see if they can continue that trend, man. But so anybody who joins us, you gotta join the Big Ten and try to beat us, and you gotta report to Daddy first.
Oh, we're going there, really?
Yeah, okay. I'm just having a little fun. I'm just having a
Okay,
little fun.
never.
Just let me have my moment, man. Just
I'm
let me have
good.
my
I'm good, but don't say stuff like that. That's weird.
Okay, sorry, whatever. But
Perfect. Well, that is it for us. Greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in. We got about 86 on the line. Actually, I haven't checked to see. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up before we go. We greatly appreciate it. And we need to have more subscribers than the Ohio State channel. You beat them on the field. Let's beat them on YouTube as well. So thank you guys. We greatly appreciate it. We will not be here Saturday. Obviously, Michigan's not playing. We will be back here next Wednesday. Probably kick off around 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. That is it for us.
peace.
Peace.